So in this next activity, which is, as you can see, we started with identification. Now on the next stage of the project life cycle is the preparation and appraisal. And our approach for this, this is what I'm talking about, the project life cycle. We're done with identification. Now you already have an idea, hey, I can link this with air quality. Now let's go deeper into the preparation and the appraisal stage. How can we further integrate? How can we make it more concrete of the air quality benefits of your project? So let's talk about this scenario. This is just a scenario. Imagine there is an island archipelago country with problems on waste management and electricity generation because of the nature of their country. It's very difficult to generate electricity. So imagine you are a resident of this place. What do you think is the experience, given that these are your challenges? Problems on waste management, electricity generation. What do you think are the common experience of the people in that area? This is an imaginary place for now. So what do you think? Oh, that's the solution. Okay, we're going very fast, but I'll get back to you on question number 3. But what do you think? If there's no waste management system, what's the usual tendency? What happens to the waste? They burn it. And then if there's not much, how about the problem on energy? I'm going to ask the energy persons. What do you think is the challenge if there's no?
Well, energy will be very costly. It will be expensive, right? And then, so that will, of course, impact the electricity bill for the people. Yeah.
So now, so that is correct as well. And then you'd also have other issues such as, if the waste is just not collected well, it would have impact as well on the water, the odor, and then if it's a place that is also a tourism tourism place, then that would have impact as well on visitors. Now diving deeper into relation to air quality, if you're burning waste, what happens to the quality of air? It also goes bad, right? Now, in the context of energy challenges, aside from the electricity being costly, especially in island countries, if it's very difficult to have thermal power plants, they usually use diesel generators. And when you use a lot of diesel, that also produces a lot of pollution. So what we have answered the air quality implications. Now, what solutions can be done? It was answered right out there.
It must be changed from the waste burning to be the energy in the electricity producing.
So it's like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, which means the 2 problems, a solution could be a waste to energy project, right? So this is actually a real life scenario in Maldives, wherein it's an island country, and then it's very densely populated. They have issues with waste management. There's no space. So they actually designated a place where they would dump all of the waste, and then all the rest also gets burned. And then they have diesel generators, and then of course the fuel has to be imported. So there's added emissions from all the ships coming in as well. And since it's an island, there's also the contribution of all the ships passing through. So there's also no pollution controls for the burning. So that's also a problem. And because of this, as mentioned, there could be higher costs as well, and climate change impacts as well, aside from the air pollution impacts. You remember this slide from the toolkit, figure 2 and figure 3. These are the common air pollutants and emission sources, and short-lived climate pollutants and their usual sources. So it's in your toolkit. You're not required to memorize them. But the point here is that specific air pollutants, specific climate pollutants, more or less you can trace where they come from. So for example, if you're talking about particulate matter, every time you combust, every time there's fossil fuel combustion, there is the emission of particulate matter. And usually if there's incomplete combustion, you also have black carbon, which is also a very strong climate forcer. And then, for example, if it's nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides, usually sulfur-containing fuels. And then, if you're talking about, let's say, emissions from fertilizer, manure, and wastewater, that's very distinct, producing ammonia. So that's the key point, that there are some pollutants that are more emitted if that is your source. And here, if you scan the QR code, so the QR code is also in your tables. Facilitators kindly assist the participants. These are very simple questions. With the discussion, what are the key sources of air pollution in Greater Male? Please input your answer. Please scan the code. It's in the screen or in your table.
And just to, for those who needing some caffeine, you may bring the coffee to your table because we won't have a separate session for just for coffee.
So I think you're done answering. So you just type in what you think are the key sources of air pollution in Greater Male based on our very quick exercise. You can freely type it and then it will show up in a while. Ayan. All right, please show. So far, the very fast responders. What you can see here is that we are in agreement. So majority of the responses, what's the key pollutant sources in the site? So drum roll, please. Drum roll. So while they're working on that, I hope the others can continue answering. Okay. So in this question of what are the key sources of pollution in Male or in Maldives, majority of the responses are so it's shared. Okay, so while we are showing the, well, later we'll show the majority of the responses, but as we know, majority of the pollution source in the site is waste burning, as well as basically it's waste burning, and then also the problem on the energy production through the diesel gensets. The next question is on, therefore, what would be the key pollutants of concern? If there is burning, oh, here. So just to show, this is the summary of the responses of the people. Majority, the waste burning is much bigger because a lot of people answered the same phrase. But as you can see, we're all in agreement. Majority is answering waste burning and diesel, waste management, solid waste, which is basically the same. We also acknowledge that contributors to it also would be the marine transport or the shipping emission. So indeed, that is correct. Now, the next question would be on the key pollutants. So what you just need to do, don't worry, we don't expect you to memorize the pollutants. So from the choices, just select what you think is a major concern. So just push it up to the top if you think that's the top air pollution of concern, air pollutant of concern. There. I think you are seeing a different screen. Don't worry, you just need to rank the pollutants, choose the pollutant that you think is of greatest concern in the site. Confirming you can access the, okay. So just, yes, you have to click next in your phones or in your screen so that you can get to the second question. So there, okay, now it's changing as the answers come in. So while we wait for the responses of others, so definitely, as we have mentioned, as long as there is burning, ultimately you would have emissions of particulate matter. There is also, of course, black carbon and carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, especially from the diesel generators. And then in this case, okay, let's wait for the rest. If you would notice here, there's also the option on heavy metals because especially for the, depending on the specific type of waste, especially if the waste is just really openly burned with no segregation, most likely also it could emit heavy metals such as lead. So that's why it's in the options. Now, again, this exercise is just to make you more familiar with the different kinds of pollutants depending on the type of source available or that is in that particular site. Now, going back to our slides, now that you have an idea where it comes from, what are the pollutants of concern, the next activity that we're doing as a group would be to look more closely on the air quality framework in the country. This is important because if you're going to do a project in that particular place about or in relation to air pollution, then you have to know what is the existing situation on air quality regulation or testing or monitoring in that place. So in the next, I have a no. So, by the way, here's the answer key. What are the key sources of air pollution in Greater Malay? So, it's also in the slide. This is what we discussed a while ago, including key pollutants of concern. And this is the activity that I was talking about now in a group discussion again. In your tables, there's also another QR code there, but it's for the references. What we're going to exercise here is your quick fact-finding skills. There are a few documents in that folder which will help you answer what are the existing national air quality related legislation, regulations, and policy. What are transboundary air pollution issues that are existing in the place? And what kind of air quality information is already available? So it's in the folder, it's in the link, and I'll just go around if you already put your answers in the meta cards and in your flip charts. So this should be a very, very quick one. It's not really brainstorming, but really looking at the documents and see what you can find. So this is important because as part of project proposal development, right, we have to know what's happening in the project site in terms of policies, in terms of other issues that can impact the benefits of your project. And what's the baseline? Maybe there's already baseline information, so you don't have to collect it as part of your project. So that could also be very helpful. Feel free to search online as well. If you want to Google, if you want to search, it's completely fine as well.
So you could take a look at the Maldives already have their air quality standards. Do they enforce or they do have air quality standards or maybe emission standards? So you may use the meta cards for your answer and the so other legislation related to air quality would include um, Clean Air Law or Clean Air Act. So that's also something that you could take a look at if they do already have that. And types of air quality information would be air quality monitoring data, the one that was lectured by Ever earlier, or then emission inventories, GHG inventories, report. The references were already compiled or reading it. I don't know, they could have maybe a waste, solid waste management plan. The Philippines does have our solid waste management plan, so that would be interesting to know if Maldives also. They do have. Okay, so we found one relevant law. Actually interested if they do have air quality standards already, because that would can put it's because that's also very telling of how governments are looking at air quality management within their legal system. I can put it. Also air quality information. You can ask co-pilot if Maldives also already. Because action plans would also usually be based on emission movement. I think we also put okay, vehicle emission standard. I can write. Yes. My double side. Oh. Not sure.
Easier for number 4, just check if there's a transboundary air pollution issue in Maldives.
Okay. Mr. English. I'll write that down. I'll write that down. Ako na. Is 2.0 or? Okay. Good.
So group 5 is done with question number 3.
Yeah, curious. Do they have air quality monitoring?
Group 1 also is done with question number 3.
This real-time air quality. IQ,
Sorry?
it's air quality. IQ, air, and then
So that's more of a sensor-based system. IQ Air is a low-cost.
Were you able to find it? You don't have to write all the air quality data. You can just describe what is available so that it's fast.
Yeah. So meteorological, meaning looking at weather systems, so wind speed.
Group 4 is also done with number 3.
But it's also related to air quality.
This is with the
because
help of
if you
chat.
do modeling,
Our friend
then
chat, and it's okay. We maximize the use
Weather
of
chat.
chat. We just need to
Mhm.
verify later on if it's a real project proposal. Okay, can we wrap up in 3 minutes?
That's it. I think. Yes. Yes, we can add them. because that also generates long-term historical climate data. And when we speak of climate data, also tell as an indicator air quality.
Let's pause the question.
But in
the low cost
not exactly in Male, if I remember correctly. Yeah. In the northern part of the how about transboundary air pollution? How do you think transboundary, the nature of course, an island nation? How is that? Okay. That's interesting.
I guess 1 minute left.
Okay. So say they do have port. Okay. How would you imagine an entire island that's basically a dump site affecting nearby settlements? So if that particular Pilafushi, it's a lagoon, they reclaimed it and transformed it into a dump site. So if they do burn that, I mean, without the waste, the proper waste facility, manufacturing facility. So how would that affect transboundary? And when we say transboundary, it's crossing borders. The dispersion. And how would the waste to energy project affect that or impact the dispersion? So so you pointed shipping, that's an interesting perspective. And then reduce transponder. Actually, another maybe not in the context of not just in the waste to energy, because they do transport. So the island resorts, they do transport their waste to the lagoon, to Pilafusion. So you would imagine using barges carrying the waste. And what's the fuel of barges? It's really also like bunker, is it bunker fuel? Diesel. So that's another source. Air pollution that would, I would say, offset by the ability of the waste to energy.
Okay, are we ready? Moderators? All good?
Like Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh-huh.
See, the darkest smoke is that region.
That region.
It becomes, I think, something that's a pocket.
Mm.
That is the happy version. Other side, I think, of it. This particular cannot get this particular.
Okay, can we move on to the for this part, I'm not gonna ask you to share your answers because it's most likely gonna be the same as the other groups. So if I may share this, so everything okay? Moderators, just for the interest of time, the point of this exercise is that with documents, even also with online references, it's important that you know more about the place where you're going to implement the project. You start with policies and then you also look at external factors that could impact your project or impact how the benefits of your project can be maximized, such as transboundary pollution, and what kind of air quality information is available to help you with baselining. So in this table, this summarizes based on the references we gave you. I think, of course, you actually answered a lot more, and that's best. I just chose a few just so it could fit on the table. But ultimately, key policies would be the National Action Plan on Air Pollutants, and of course, the NDC. And very good because I've seen the specific policies on emission standards. So thank you very much. It's not that your answers are not correct, okay? Again, I'm just highlighting some of the few ones. Key points. And then on transboundary air pollution, yes, as confirmed in their National Action Plan, it comes specifically from incomplete combustion from shipping, transport, and open burning of waste. And during the dry season, 90% of PM 2.5 can actually be contributed by transboundary sources. So this is important information. Why is this important? Because when you set targets for your project, it means you cannot make it so high. Why? Because there are transboundary factors that influence the level of air pollution that you have no control of. It's helpful to understand so that you can set the expectations of the project targets that you are going to set. And on the available air quality information, while they have an observatory, there's one observatory doing long-term monitoring, but it's in a remote site. There's no consistent long-term monitoring in the urban sites. So that's also a challenge. And in one of the papers that we put in the folder, they specified how much of the days wherein the WHO guidance is actually exceeded. And that's very important because you can use that as motivation for your project to justify that if the air quality improves, it will also have improvements in health outcomes. So these kinds of reference studies also would help your project planning. And they also identified some of the key sources, again, complementing that there's biomass burning, electricity generation, vehicular emission, there's also sea transport and construction. This is just, again, additional information on that. We detailed it so that when we share the resources to you, you can go back that, okay, this was the exercise and this was the key answers. In your toolkit, there's actually it's actually now page 50 in your version because there's like a notes there. If you open page 50, there is a checklist which helps you identify it helps you understand the project site better. And if you look at the project design checklist, if you would look at the questions there, it's the exercise that we have done. It helps you understand your project site better. So this means that when you design your projects, you can go back to this checklist and use this to help you answer more questions about your project site. So from our imaginary project site, we actually now go to a real ADB project. I think most of you or some of you are very much familiar with this. So this is the ADB Greater Male Environmental Improvement and Waste Management Project. So indeed, the ADB has tried to address the issue we have presented in Male. This is here are some figures of what's the project implementation area and the proposed waste to energy site in Thilafushi. So this is what you've been reading in the references. There's like group of islands. There's not much space. So there's one island, the Thilafushi, wherein they made it into a dumping site. So the project would have there the proposed WTE. The goal is that aside from having the waste to energy facility, we also strengthen institutional capacities for solid waste management and environmental monitoring. And of course, you don't just create the facility, but go to the root problem. So there's also public awareness on waste to energy and reduce, reuse, recycle. Now, we also just have to note that as part of the design of the waste to energy facility, there are all, because there's, of course, there's combustion involved. So there were also air pollution control technologies that were included as part of the project. So just to raise that. So just to also add more details in the ADB project, we mentioned a while ago that baseline information is very important. So as part of the project preparations, there were some short-term air quality monitoring that was done. So here are some of the photos to show the monitors that they used. And as you can see here, there are some specific locations that they were 15 times higher than the WHO guidelines. And peak concentrations is 2,000 micrograms. This is really, really, really high per cubic meter. So that's the project has two phases. The phase one is the establishment of the modern waste collection, transfer, and disposal system with capacity building. Phase two would be the construction of the waste to energy plant. So as you can see, as most of your projects, there are different phases. So now, what are we going to do? In this next activity, we have what we'll do is you will discuss again with your group. And then the scenario is that we have an opportunity to improve or to add on to the ADB project. So what we will ask you to do is to write down, brainstorm with your group, write down your ideas on project components or measures that could complement the ADB waste to energy project in Male. And you can also describe how it will address air pollution. And the third column, it just means to ask, because there are two phases here. So you can describe if that proposed project idea is part of phase one, or it's part of phase two, or both, or it's entirely an additional one. This is an exercise for you to further link that even existing projects can have additional components that would further establish the air quality benefit. So this is what the exercise is about. So are we clear? You go back to your groups and discuss these project ideas. In page 52 of your toolkit, there's actually an initial feasibility assessment checklist. We don't have time, and we're not going to do an actual feasibility assessment, right? Because this is a whole project in itself. But it's very important that at least you have, if you can read through it, so that while you're thinking about your project ideas, you can think about, okay, these are major considerations for the feasibility. So again, just focus on project ideas, try to describe how it can improve air quality. You can identify if it's phase one of the project or phase two of the Male Waste to Energy project, and then just describe what you think are the feasibility considerations that you have to prepare for. Right. So thank you very much for your active participation. I think all boards are right here in front. Our final request is that if you could huddle a bit right in front for each of the participants, for each of the groups to have a representative to share their key project ideas. Because anyway, afterwards, it's the exciting part. We have the opening, we have the closing remarks and then the cocktails. So if we may invite everyone a little bit over here in front. Who wants to go first? Okay, yes, okay, we have very fast. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are from Group 4 and we are group presentation because we have three presenters. Thank you for giving me the first group to present this. My group discussed about the first phase. We would like to robust the system of the rubbish collections, transfer, and the waste management, because we think it should be starting at the policy level and decentralized to the city level and engage the private sector for the rubbish management. And we would like to focus on e-truck to carry the rubbish to the management station from the waste to energy. And we would like to introduce the e-truck to be invested by the government and the private sector. It's kind of the PPP project. Yeah, and the benefit for the country is about no burning, less pollution. Yeah, this is the first idea, and I pass on to the CCUS idea.
Thank you. So actually, we are introducing the carbon capture, utilization, and storage because of the geographically valley are surrounded by water. There will be storage, so we can use that technology, get less polluted, and also the less carbon. And also the for second technology, waste to energy, we can use those also in case of the Mali because of there are no more land for the waste dumping, and then it will be also used together after the plant. We can use that one, and also use the cooking oil for the aviation fuel. It will be also benefit for the Mali case. So I will pass the over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm from Vietnam. And one of the main important solution for to improve air quality in Maldives maybe use SAF. Have you ever heard about SAF? It is sustainable aviation fuel. From the 1st October 2025 in Europe, the Europe already required all flight from other country to European countries have to fill 2% of SAF. If not, they have to pay carbon credit. They have to buy carbon credit. If they don't buy 2% of SAF for their flight. So my idea is the Maldives government may require the all flight from outside to Maldives use SAF. So, if not, please pay carbon credit for pollution, air pollution. So that's my idea. Yeah, and another thing I can introduce that SAF is produced from used cooking oil, and first please collect used cooking oil from household, from restaurant, from cook manufacturer industry, and then can build or develop a SAF plant, and then produce SAF, and then sell for international flyers to Maldives. That's my idea.
One last question for the group. Did you discuss about the most feasible solution? Did you discuss about that? What do you think among all your ideas? What is the most feasible? Because I heard you were talking about cost. Is it practical? Is it realistic?
Actually, all of the feasible. So it's even the some of them payback period will be shorter than other technologies. So
That. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for group 4. Right. I think we now proceed to group 6. Where's the board? Oh, this is. Yes.
So we prepared this with some ideas. So this has 4 or 5 components, our projects, right? So one is sustainable solid waste facility, waste segregation, and then safely transporting it to the waste to energy plant, and then treating the waste and then feeding into the waste to energy plant, right? So that is one component. Sustainable solid waste management in itself is a small project. Second, the policy side. The policy what we reviewed earlier is not very focused policy. It's a very broad-based policy. Okay, so policy intervention will be required for especially for solid waste management and emissions and all those things. So we would love to have one component, a small component on the policy and regulatory support, which is very important because without any policy and regulatory support, it's not going to be lasted for long. So third, the community awareness on the, especially the reducing the single-use plastic, promoting recycling. So the awareness of the community on the solid waste management and the, what you call it, consumer, not end users behavior basically, right? So, and then how to run the waste to energy plant sustainably. So whether use the solar power or some other alternative renewable energy sources. And for example, for solid waste collection, currently most of the cities use, fossil fuel based, trucks, diesel trucks or petrol trucks and all those things. So in many cities now, in India also and many other countries, they are using the battery operated vehicles for solid waste collection. It's small trucks, but they are clean. They don't, they don't use any fossil fuels. So one is the use of electric vehicles for waste collections, and then setting up a solid waste dumping site near the waste to energy plant with the geotextile so that it doesn't, leachate doesn't go there. And, that's also important. Otherwise, the groundwater source will be polluted. So, so community awareness, use of solar energy, and sustainable solid waste management, and regulatory and policy advisory, and also institutional strengthening. Maybe setting up a special purpose vehicle who will run all this entire thing, solid waste management, including waste to energy plant, because that is also important. Usually our line ministries are not into that kind of job. So that could be a very commercially, commercially viable project in self-sustainable. So they don't need government funding in future, so they can run on their own. So then the outcome of this project will be reduced vehicular emissions because of this electric vehicles for solid waste collection. It will address the plastic waste. It will also reduce emissions because we will not use diesel generators. And that's our project.
Thank you very much, Group 6. So it's good to highlight here that they thought about each stage of the project and the sustainability part. It's very nice to hear about the policy component. So it would be very good that because it will ensure the sustainability. Even after ADB's project, the government hopefully would continue on. So thank you very much.
Policy component is important because in many countries, what is seen is one government comes and they have the ideas, good ideas, but when the political changes happen, it is continuity of those operations or initiatives is question mark. And for example, in Mongolia, we face this issue. And in Maldives, it is even more because it's very prone to political changes. So in case of political reshuffle or uncertainties, policy, if it is already approved and there is a legal protection to what you are doing, so then it continues and you are able to attract private sector investment.
Yes.
Because private sector wants, continuity of policy. So usually many countries are not able to attract private sector investment in such kind of things because they are afraid that the government will come and they will change. So long-term profitability should be ensured by the stable policy.
Thank you very much. Please give him a round of applause together with Group 6. Thank you. Now, before we go to the other side of the room, how about Group 2? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, she's here.
Sorry, this is we don't have a clean thing here. This is actually, this was my attempt to explain something to the team. But then if we are going to present this, I'm happy to just present this. we were actually taking this in a bit different way. What we said is, okay, there are projects, and yes, there can be ways to improve the project components, but maybe because, me being a bigger policy person, I was approaching it a bit differently. And that's what I was trying to explain. And here I said that, okay, it's very important to have an enabling environment. So before we venture into or design any projects, it would be good to have a stock of what it is like, whether a country has all these different components in place. That would really make it more institutionalized and sustainable. So I was saying that, in order to create that enabling environment, we have to see whether they have a right legislation in place. So legislative framework would be one component. Institutional arrangements or framework can be another. Resources is definitely important in terms of people, finance, and technology. And also partnerships, there has to be a partnerships. There has to be a coordination and planning mechanisms in place. There, of course, need to be a knowledge, and infrastructure, So here we tend to focus a lot on infrastructure. That's why we have projects. Okay, build this, build that, and all. But then only focusing on this without really taking into account other factors means those projects can be just one-off or standalone and not sustainable. So that is why it's very important that we take into account everything. So there can be a project here, there can be a project there, all the projects can come from all these different elements, but to make it sustainable, to institutionalize those initiatives, it's very important to have these things also taken into account. So that is how what I was trying to explain. So yeah, sorry, it didn't contribute directly to your questions, but that was out.
But this is a very helpful insight that indeed the focus has been on infrastructure, building something, but how do we make sure that the efforts are actually sustained? So that's a very important insight actually across all projects and also not only on air quality improvement. So so thank you very much, Group 2. Thank you, Group 2. We now go to this side of the room. I guess we'll just go from here to that side. I guess we go first to this group, who wants to do a site visit to Maldives, but only in Filafushi or in the other islands as well. So, okay, you have to accompany. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. First, I want to apologize if my explanation is not really clear because I just accidentally appointed to present this in last minutes. So let me try my best. In our teams, we see that the philosophy of waste to energy project is not to generate energy to distribute to the people, but more on to manage the waste. And what we analyze then how to improve this Maldives project is first we think about the Maldives situation, even though we haven't visited the Maldives, and I think there's at least three components there. First, in the archipelago like Maldives, people tend to burn their waste on open pits, and the second is there is no collections and transportation of the waste itself. And the last one is most of the transportation like boats or even cars and even small power generation is using diesels, which also contribute to the pollutions. And then therefore our proposed solution is at least three on top of the waste to energy management. The first one is we think that centralized waste management into one place, like in the Maldives project, is better rather than letting people keep burning in open pits. And we can, because if it's centralized, we can, of course, add some technology aspect to improve the process itself. And what kind of technology that we explore is, for example, the first one is we can attach some kind of filters. Other colleague already mentioned about carbon capture. There is also a filter to a particle like a flash ash, bottom ash. And we also know that these side products can be also used to create another products, for example, building blocks that probably create a more additional circular economy value. And the second one is we want to introduce EV boats. So hopefully if there is a surplus power generated from these power plants, they can also use to charge the EV boats. And since Maldives do not really have a lot of islands where we can put solar panels, we can integrate the solar panel into this power plant, like for example, rooftop solar panels, and it's and floating solar panels. So it can also contribute to charge the EV boats. And we can also add the battery storage. So it's like and I think that is from our team. Do you want to add something?
There was also this idea of we're talking about an island nation that also values, of course, biodiversity, livelihoods of fisher folks, or those who are looking after the preservation of the resort islands as well. And so I think one idea to add to the centralized waste management system is to build the capacity of the islands, so including the capital Male, but also resort islands and other inhabited islands for their local waste management. And so that would already introduce measures such as segregation, improved collection, etc. I think it's really thinking about the entire value chain. And so, of course, introducing more energy efficient and process efficient measures, so that we would, in effect, also saving on energy to transport, because yes, it's really, I think, a logistical challenge to be able to transport from different 300 plus islands to the waste facility. So it's really adding on these mini processes to add to that holistic energy efficiency concept. Okay, thank you. That's group 5. Don't forget the site visit to Maldives.
Thank you, group 5. Now we go to group 3. Okay. So it's a duo.
Who first? You first. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So we become very ambitious and then try to provide a comprehensive, multidisciplinary the solution to the country. So you can see our passion from the body of information on the paper. I think some of them are overlapping with what's already mentioned by other teams, but the ideas, the components includes energy transition to the cleaner technology, such as e-mobility, or the renewable energy sources, including the floating solar, and something more advanced technology, including the tidal power generation. And we also talked about to assess the baseline improvement of the monitoring system of air quality, so that we can track the air quality on time. And then we also talked about the domestic agriculture production, because this is an island nation and they rely on the import for the most of the daily goods, including the food. So that causes the emission of air pollutant from the transportation, mainly from Sri Lanka or India. So we talked about domestic production, and then a reuse of the waste dump, so that it's not burned in the power generation to emit the air pollutant. And then I think, and what's unique, it's we talked about mitigation measure, but we also talked about adaptation. Because we make effort, but air pollutant, it takes some time to solve the problem. So we need to raise awareness among the people how to react, wearing face mask and not working outside when those when there is alert on the air pollution in the country. So that's what we discussed, and maybe I pass it to my colleague.
Thank you. I will present the second, how it will address air pollution in Maldives Island. Due to the waste to energy project that will construct the plant for waste to be the energy. Everyone know that Maldives is a small island and the local people live very close to the close. Also the tourists also because the project will be solve the problem of the waste burning pollution. So when we construct the waste to energy plant, we need to be control the air pollution that will be emitted from the plant also. The way to control is might be capture air pollution by installing the air pollution control unit that is very high efficiency to control air emission that will be emitted from the plant like PM 2.5. Not PM 2.5, particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, oxide of nitrogen, and so on. The emission standard need to be regulated also, and the emission that emit from the plant, the power plant also need to meet the standard strictly. The one thing that is might be ensure to the local people and the tourists is might be the application or platform that report the air pollution from the power plant to the people. That is, today is very good air quality from the power plant. We need to have the mobile phone application or display board for the tourists to see, today is good to exercise or for walking. Yes, something. One for the phase 1 and 2, you?
Yeah, so we propose 2 phases. So first phase is like a preparation. So like starting from the assessment and also setting standard, and then capacity building, and then proposing solution and doing feasibility study before actually doing the like a project. And then second phase is to like actually implement like all of those like measures like we are discussing. In addition to that, like the implementation, we think it's important to set the policy to incentivize like the people in the country to use actually like the measures such as like renewable energy or e-mobility, which like emit less pollutants. So that's like our very ambitious proposal. And final.
Yeah, may I ask the one more thing? I think public awareness campaign is very interesting in this area because when we construct the waste to energy plant, the people need to be educated for separate which one is utilized for power plant. This one is used for recycle reuse. That is a value thing to be done, and we also need to support domestic agriculture product for less burning and utilize their waste to the energy for high incentive of the price. Pricing of the waste to energy. Any more? Thank you.
They are ready to present to the board. But we'd like to highlight, there's so many concrete ideas. I'd like to highlight the monitoring, the air quality monitoring capacity, and the very concrete display boards, the mobile app, and especially with Maldives being a very popular tourist place, if the if the tourists can see what's happening, there would be more motivation that, okay, we really have to improve and do things. So there's so much to highlight. Thank you very much for your hard work. Now, group 3, thank you. Now, last but not the least, from group 1.
Okay, maybe every group it talk about everything. Okay, for the first one, we discuss about the public awareness campaign to the people and the childhood, and also we enforce against the burning. And you should have the waste catching vehicle or is electrification to the EV. And we think about the reward system that we can report the violator that burning. And also the phase 1, we should have the schedule for the garbage collection transfer. And for the next phase 2, we need to have the emission control system and also the emission standard to set for the plant. And for the air quality monitoring and management and plan during the construction. That also that group discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're very proud of the active participation of everyone. Some of the key takeaways that we could understand from this is that there are multiple solutions to a problem. And what we're really happy to see is that you're able to see more the link of air quality regardless of the sector you are working in. And that's very important as a first step so that it becomes some of the key considerations when you design the project and not just an afterthought. So I know we have been discussing maybe this should have been included, this should have not been the focus of the project, but now with what you know, hopefully in the next projects that you're going to review or plan for, there's now that point of, okay, is this linked to air pollution? What are other solutions that we can do? And just to share, when we were preparing the toolkit, some of the key points that we've heard from the development, the financing institutions was that sometimes they don't include the air quality part because the government partner does not request for it. So the key points there is that it also depends on who you're talking to. Because for example, if you're talking to the Ministry of Transport, the focus discussion is on transport. Same for waste, same for or energy. But now that you are also equipped with the knowledge that you can see the link of everything with one another through to a cross-cutting, a cross-sectoral approach, then you yourselves should be able to bring the discussion to also to them. So we highlight that the work that you're doing is actually worth more than what you think and worth more than what you are reporting. So we're very glad that through the steps you're able to trace. Tomorrow there would be a bit more detailed assessments, like because for example, we have all these ideas, but what data do we need so that we could really start detailed planning? Where do we get the data? And then what are the outcomes that we can do? What if we don't have this data? Can we just do a qualitative approach? Do we do an emissions-based approach? Can we do the level of health impact assessment or modeling? So those are the things that we're going to discuss more in detail tomorrow through the project clinics. But for today, thank you very much for your hard work. I'll give the floor back to Ms. Glinda.